A massive wooden fortress does not collapse from a single cannonball. It falls because 10,000 microscopic termites spend 5 years eating it from the inside. They do not make a sound. They do not leave a trace. But one day, a gentle breeze blows, and the entire structure turns to dust. How many areas of your life are currently being eaten away by things you have labeled as completely normal? How many silent compromises are you tolerating today that will collapse your faith tomorrow? I used to think that spiritual danger always arrived with a warning label. I believed that as long as I avoided the big, obvious sins, my walk with God was secure. But last year, I decided to remodel my living room and moved a heavy bookshelf that had stood against the wall for 5 years. Behind it, I found a massive patch of black mold, rotting the drywall to the core. It started from a tiny, unnoticed rainwater leak in the roof years ago. I stood there staring at the decay, and a cold realization hit me. This is exactly how we drift. At first, I argued with myself. I thought, maybe I am being too dramatic about this. Surely, a few small, harmless habits or tiny negative thoughts cannot ruin a person's entire foundation of faith. But the rotting wall in front of me was the undeniable answer. If you do not fix the tiny leak, you will eventually lose the entire house. The first thing the enemy does is quiet. He does not ask you to deny your faith. He simply redefines the vocabulary of your daily actions. We take something that God calls a sin, and we give it a softer, more modern name. Look at how we talk about others. We sit in a circle and we share a detailed story about someone else's broken marriage or personal struggle. But we do not call it gossip. We wrap it in a prayer request and we call it empathy. We say we just want to know how to pray for them. Proverbs 16:28 warns us that a whisperer separates close friends. But we ignore the whisper because it feels like connection. Then we look at our own spiritual disciplines. We stop reading the Bible, we stop praying, and we stop serving. But we do not call it spiritual laziness or apathy. We call it our Christian liberty. We tell ourselves that God knows our hearts and that we do not want to be legalistic. We use the beautiful concept of grace as a shield to protect our refusal to change. And then we isolate ourselves. We stop gathering with other believers. We tell ourselves that we do not need the church because we have a personal relationship with God. But Hebrews 10:25 explicitly commands us not to neglect meeting together. Isolation is not intimacy with God. It is the moment a sheep wanders away from the flock, making itself an easy target. Imagine a single drop of black ink falling into a glass of pure, clean water. At first, the water still looks clear, but the chemical structure has already changed, and eventually, the whole glass becomes dark. Are you willing to look at your life today and call things by their real biblical names? The compromise does not stop at our boundaries. It slowly acts as a soft sedative, putting our conscience to sleep. We begin to practice a form of selective outrage. We feel a wave of intense anger when we see the brokenness and decay in the culture around us. Yet we remain completely blind to the pride, greed, and envy in our own hearts. We condemn the world while we coddle the exact same sins in our private lives. I lived this way for a long time, and I did not even realize it. A few years ago, I found myself lying awake at 3 o'clock in the morning, night after night. My chest was tight with anxiety, worrying about our family finances, our future, and our security. But I did not call it a lack of faith. I told myself I was just being a responsible and realistic provider. I wore my worry like a badge of honor, as if stress were a proof of love. But deep down, I had to ask myself a painful question. Was I actually trusting God, or was I living as though the creator of the universe was not big enough for my mortgage? We do the exact same thing with our relationships. We stay silent when we see someone we love walking into destruction. We watch them destroy their lives. But we say nothing because we do not want to be judgmental. We call our cowardice love, but biblical love cares enough to speak the hard truth gently. And finally, we grow casual with the holy. We use the name of God as a casual exclamation mark in our daily conversations. We show up to worship distracted, scrolling through our phones, treating the presence of the living God like a background playlist. We do not deny him, we just treat him as ordinary. And that is the most dangerous place a Christian can ever be. But we do not have to remain asleep. Awareness is the first step back to conviction, and conviction is the only bridge to true freedom. Romans 12 verse 2 urges us to not be conformed to this world, but to be transformed by the renewing of our minds. This means we must actively clean our spiritual filters every single day. At this point, you might ask yourself a difficult question. How can any of us live a perfectly holy life in a world that is completely broken? Is it even possible to avoid every single tiny compromise without becoming isolated from reality? The truth is, God is not demanding instant perfection from you. He is looking for a heart that is sensitive enough to repent the moment a crack is found, rather than trying to cover it up with excuses. It is about progress, not pretense. Thank you so much for watching this video. If this message challenged your heart today, please subscribe to the channel and share this with someone who needs to hear it.